4th Street college football game. In this video we'll talk about special teams player cards. We're going to talk about those 67 Trojans that we've used in the other videos. We'll switch over to them here for a second. This is their platoon sheet. Most of the special teams aspects will be referenced off of the platoon sheets, both the punting and the kickoffs and the field goals. When a kickoff occurs and we need a kickoff return, when the D20 is rolled from 1 to 20, it's going to reference on the section here, kickoff return, depending on what type of kick it is, normal, onside, or squib, a matchup of a return player. Let's say we're normal and it's a 12 to 13, so we'll need Wilson Bowie. We'll see that his rating is a 7K. Let's switch over to the second string offense. I guess he's third string. So on Wilson Bowie's card, kick return 7K, parentheses 21. His 7 is his blocking rating, his K is his return letter grade on the returns table, and the 21 is result code 21, the longest return he could make, 29 yards in this case. Okay, back to the platoon sheet. Well, Wilson Bowie's not actually ever returning kicks on a normal kickoff. He's in fact a blocker. And so his 7 is the only number that we're really, or rating that we're really interested in. His K is almost irrelevant. It may come in play, in fact, if a squib kick or an onside kick was made. But for normal kicks, either return man number 1, Earl McCulloch here, a 7J, or return man number 2, O.J. Simpson here, a 7F, would be utilized. They can also use their 7s as their blocking, in essence their own blocking, but the J and the F are almost always going to be used in normal kickoffs, not these Ks or Ns above. Okay, so Wilson Bowie's our blocker, and his 7 is going to come up against whoever's on defense. He would be matched up on coverage with that same D20 roll of 12 to 13. On defense, that would be the right winger, and if they were in scrimmage here, the right winger is Mike Battle, who has a rating of 6R. Now, for the blocking assignment, we only are interested in the 7 minus the 6. So D10 of 0 or 1 is going to be a victory on the block for Wilson Bowie, and a D10 of 2 through 9 is going to be a victory on the block for Mike Battle. Now, let's assume that Wilson Bowie, in fact, won the battle. We have a D10 roll of, say, 0, and so his block is the victorious matchup. We're not going to use the K, as we said. All returns, unless specifically going to returner 2, in this case on D20s of 14, 15, and 16, will default to Earl McCulloch, the number 1 returner. So even though we have a 7K under Wilson Bowie, we are actually going to use McCulloch's J rating on the returns table. One bit of information we'd need from Earl McCulloch as we go over to the team sheet. Let's get a little bit of extra detail on Earl. Okay, on Earl we see he's a 7J61. And he's got a frequency rating of 5. So, the J would bring us to the returns table, column J. The 61 is going to be his longest return, in this case from 60 to 69 yards. And the frequency rating of 5 means that when the return table is set up with long returns, that's 61 in this case, on number 2. But McCulloch is a bit better than a typical return long man, so he gets his long return on the 5 instead of the 2. In a sense, the 5s and the 2s are switched. So instead of, let's look up what the return table J looks like. Okay, here we are in the returns table, and we've highlighted column J in the yellow. As you can see on the 2d6 roll up 2, we have the L for the long gain. In this case, McCulloch's is a 61 result code, which means 60 to 69 yards. 3 is 31, result code of 4 is 21, and so forth. Here on the 5 is result code 21. So, in fact, McCulloch is going to switch this 21 on the 5 up to the 2, and the long on the 2 over to his 5. So we'll have a 61 for McCulloch here and a 21 on the 2 for McCulloch. Okay, let's recall that when we rolled the D10 for the block-up matchup of Wilson Bowie and Mike Battle, we hypothesized that it was a 0, so that Wilson Bowie won the matchup, his 7 being better than Mike Battle's 6. But we didn't use Wilson Bowie's K rating because he wasn't actually the returning guy, he's just the blocking guy. We in fact used Earl McCulloch's J rating. Now let's suppose instead that Mike Battle won this blocking matchup. The D10 wasn't 0, let's say it was 7, much higher than 0 or 1. That would have been required for Bowie to win the block. In this case we have the R, and so in this case we're actually going to use the R of Mike Battle and not the J of Earl McCulloch. So we would go to the returns table. So here we are at the returns table, column R now being highlighted in yellow. And we see that these return gains are much worse than McCulloch's J column would have been had Bowie won the blocking matchup. Another side note is the L, since we're victory in the block, we're not going to use frequency 5 of McCulloch, and the L's are limited to result code 21, so a 20 to 29 yard maximum gain. Also, you notice here that the D12 can come into effect on returns. 9 is a possible penalty, a 10 is a possible injury, an 11 is a possible fumble, 12 is a possible weird occurrence during the return. Also, if the kickoff had the ball being fielded inside the 10-yard line, so 9-yard line or even into their own end zone, when we'd get a result code of say 00 or 82 or even 90, which are some pretty short returns, we'd actually add an additional 10 yards. So this 00 on a 12, if it was fielded at the 5, we're going to not use a 0-yard return, we're going to use a 10-yard return and have the ball 1st and 10 at the 15. Okay, that's the kickoff portion. Next video will be the punting portion.